Welcome to the Dogs Are the Best Friends podcast. I'm Emily, and my best buddy, Flynn, is here too. The purpose of this podcast is to bring you some dog stories and a few tips along the way to help you and your best friend communicate. Hello, my fellow Crazy for the Canine friends. Welcome to another episode of Dogs Are the Best Friends. I have a great episode today, which actually I always feel that way, don't I? But I do. I get to share dog stories. How blessed am I? This is amazing. Shannon Pinkston is here today. She is a super sweet, funny, sincere, genuine person. Also, just a heads up, this week starts the Wednesday episodes. So this Wednesday, have a listen to ideas that will help you keep your dog busy. It's the focus of helping you while you're working from home. But if you are busy on the weekend or whenever your days off are, this will help you keep your dog busy as well, because sometimes they want our attention 24/7. Wednesday, I will be sharing a bunch of things that you can do all the way from training to games and all sorts of different ideas. Here are Shannon's dog stories, and be sure to listen to the very end where she shares an important tip about bloat. Shannon, I am so happy that you're here today. You are going to share about your dog, and I actually learned about your dog on your own podcast. Tell us about you and your dog, because you have such an interesting journey. And then also, before all of that, give us a little background about him and his breed and things too, if you don't mind.
I absolutely will. Yeah. Thank you for having me on, by the way. I'm excited. Well, he's laying right here at my feet. His name is Dylan, and he is a golden retriever mix. I call him a dinky golden because he's sort of pocket size. He's about 46 pounds, but he's got the golden retriever spirit. He's just a sweet, sweet, sweet boy. And he's almost 15 now. I've had him since he was maybe 3 or 4.
Wow.
And
nice.
Yeah, it's been kind of a really amazing journey because he, unfortunately, Goldens tend to have issues with cancer. And about 3.5 years ago, he was diagnosed with a blood cancer called hemangiosarcoma. But he's actually helped me learn. I do some healing work and stuff, and he's helped me learn some really cool holistic things and some energy work that I do. I've applied it to him, and they gave him 3 months, and we're 3.5 years later, and old age is going to get him because now we have a little ramp on the outside of the Airstream because he can't get up the steps. So I built a little doggy ramp to get him in and out, and I have to help him with everything. But he's so worth it.
15. I mean, and that's a miracle because you didn't expect him to make it there. If you could tell us a little bit about how you found him, that's a pretty amazing story.
Yeah, it was so cool. I was a casting director for about 30 years for TV shows and commercials and stuff. And I did rescue for, 20 of those years because I had to give back in some way and, do something kind of meaningful because I loved my work, but it was, we were making TV commercials.
Right.
I kept saying, it's not like we're curing cancer, y'all. We got to do something good in the world. So I always did a lot of transport and helped with different rescues and, raised funds and all kinds of stuff. And I had a bunch of clients in from LA, and I don't know why I had Facebook open, but I guess they were taking forever. They had, like 30 roles to choose, and I glaze over then because I'm out of the process at that point. I'm just having to hang.
Okay.
And so I see this picture pop up in Facebook on one of my rescue sites that, the Arlington shelter, because it's up near Dallas, Fort Worth, where I live.
Oh yeah.
And there was this face, and I just looked at him, and I trust my intuition extensively.
Right.
And I just looked at that face and went, uh-oh. And I turned, and I literally heard a little voice that said, "Go get him." And I was like, what? I always question that little voice. I was like, what? I got clients in. They're like, go. So I just turned to my room full of clients and said, I have to go. And they're like, wait, but we're working. I'm like, well, it's lunchtime and you're deciding, and I'll be back in a couple hours. So I called the lady that I did the transport for the most. And I said, look, Elise, if you'll tag him, I'll go pick him up at the shelter because I know he's adoptable. But they said it was noon and he was going to be put down at 2. So he literally only had a couple of hours left because he's so shy and so sensitive that they couldn't put him out in adoptions. He just was cowering in the back of his cage. And he like still to this day, you can't raise your voice around him, and you can't wave anything white around him. Somebody must have hit him with something white. He won't, bless his heart, he won't fetch. Like he starts to, and then he cowers. It's just, I don't know what happened to him early on, but yeah. So I have to be super careful to be, really quiet with him. But I saw this face and I was like, that dog, he's great. But I thought I was just going to get him and take him to the rescue. But
Right.
literally, like so many things in my life, I touched him. Well, actually, I got there and he wasn't in his kennel.
Ooh.
They were already walking him down the hall, which,
Oh my gosh.
you know what that means. And
The
so I
men
grabbed
walking.
him and
That's
was like,
crazy.
yeah,
Wow.
that was horrible. So I grabbed him and, made off with him. And the second I touched him, I knew that intuitive thing I do. I was like, oh, I apparently have another dog. And at that point I had, I had 7 dogs at home
No.
and
Oh my
maybe
gosh.
4 cats. And yeah, cause I was such a foster failure. And like, they always came and went. And I would find these 2 dachshunds running onto the freeway, and you're like, oh God. So, you
Whoa.
had to throw like chicken bites out the window to get them away from the freeway, and then I'd take them home so I think at that point I had a few that weren't planning on staying, but they were still there. So I just like, you know what, I don't need another dog, but he was so magical and so sweet. And just immediately we locked eyes and I went, okay, you're my heart. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I thought I already had my heart full, but this is great. And he was so happy with all the other dogs. They immediately took to him. Like there was none of that like worry, because I was always so careful, to introduce and, because you don't know with rescue dogs.
Right.
Yeah, you do. You're just asking for trouble if you don't. And I always had a kennel in the middle of the den that I brought the new dog into so he could be open and around all the rest of them, because I had sort of an open concept house. But I didn't even have to do that with him. He just came in and was so timid and sweet. And he's always been the barometer. Like he just loves every other dog unless they have crazy energy. If they're super like hyper energy, that's when he'll like turn and snap at them. But it's sort of like that mama dog thing where, like chill. He's just trying to settle them down. But he has just been a delight and like never a problem. And I've had a handful of behavioral issue, because that's why I was a foster failure, because some of them were so bad, like nobody else would take them.
Oh gosh.
I was like, okay, I'll hang on. Like I had a Great Pyrenees that was that way. And
wow. That's a big dog too to try to work with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he was. And he his name was Axel when I got him, and he quickly became Rascal about 15 minutes after he showed up, because the woman from the rescue, she pulled up and she said, would you like to foster him? And she had only fostered him for like 4 days. And suddenly she had to move to California, supposedly. Well, she says, do you like him? I'm like, yeah, I'll try him. And she went out to the car and took off. She didn't leave me any of his stuff, his paperwork, his food, anything. She just dumped the dog and left.
Yeah.
And I came back in the house and I realized why. He was the tallest dog I'd ever had, and he could counter surf. And he ate $80 cash and 13 bananas, skins and all, off the counter, because he had such separation anxiety. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah. In like 3 minutes is all it took. And so I was like, okay. Yeah. Wow. Second away. And so anytime he'd be nervous, he liked to eat toxins too. That was his favorite thing. So he would eat like mosquito dunks and Duraflame logs. And a girlfriend from high school would come spend the night, and she would bring cigarettes. And I'm like, we don't do that in this house, but she'd leave them outside. He would eat the cigarette packet. So it was always, and he had some aggression up front, but we worked through it. And by the end of his life, he was, I'm a firm believer in how amazing training is, because I learned through him, and through some good trainers, like really how to handle that and how to not become alpha, because I don't, that's a different train of thought, but to be, to help him feel safe, to be a leader. Sure, to help him know that I had his back and that he could trust me. And eventually it got to the point, like you couldn't touch him from behind or touch his paws or do all kinds of stuff. And he would whip around and come at you. And the first day I had him, he lunged at me snarling. And I was like, okay, you're 100 pounds. We're not going to play that game.
Right.
And I don't condone this, but something in me made me kind of like flip him over, and I sat on him. That was just what my intuition said to do. And I thought, now what do I do? Like, how do I'm going to have to get up at some point. Like, how do I know it's cool to get up?
Yeah.
And so I did. I am a little bit of a strange one, but I do a little bit of animal communication. So I sort of sat there and like had a chat with him, and I was like, dude, here's the deal. Like, we'll be okay if you submit to me a little bit, like just sigh, maybe give me a kiss on the hand or something, let me know we're cool. And he literally did, like, a couple of minutes later. And I was like, okay. And he never did it again. Like we were buddies after that. And it took a while to work through the rest of it, but he was so worth it. Such a good boy.
Oh my
In the
goodness.
end.
You're amazing, Shannon, to have 7 dogs and 4 cats. You said 11
Yes.
critters in a house, let
At
alone
one
like,
point.
oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
And
That is
I
crazy.
traveled all the time. Thank God that I had a housekeeper and a house sitter that was good with all of them. But yeah, I love animals. I mean, they're so amazing, and they just,
Yes.
I didn't get to have kids, so I
Right.
had a bunch of furry kids.
I totally
wanted, it's so
understand.
funny. I wanted the Waltons. I thought I would have a house full of 2-legged kids, but I ended up with a house full of 3 and 4-leggeds because I would always take the tripods too. So,
Oh, so sweet.
yeah.
So all those dogs, have they all passed on and you just have your
They
Dylan
have,
guy, or-
yeah. It's
Aw.
just down to Dylan. When I live in my Airstream now, which is my podcast that you mentioned earlier. It's called Adventures of the Airstream Oracle, and it's because I live in my Airstream and do that
name.
stuff. And it's fun. And when I got the Airstream, first off, I had the Great Pyrenees still, and had just gotten Dylan.
Wow.
And I had a business partner that traveled with me, so it was all 4 of us in here. And
Whoa.
my business partner was a big guy; he was like 6'3".
Oh my
And
goodness.
so it was 25-foot space. It was a little interesting for all 4 of us up front, but
that's what I was just
but
going
it was
to ask
great.
you. How big? So it's 25 feet your Airstream. So
It is. It's 25 feet, and it's an
Nice.
Eddie Bauer edition, which I've used for rescue, which is really cool because the back half, it does all this stuff. I've got a back hatch, and everything in the back half latches up to the side, like where the table and the kitchen area is. It can become like a place where you can stack rescue crates and stuff. So I've done,
neat.
rescue events that way, or I've used it as a mobile casting studio, or all kinds of stuff.
Well, that's so amazing about Dylan. And I don't know if you want to share any more, but yeah, people need to go hear the whole story on your episode. And again, I will link to that in the show notes and
Thank
stuff.
you. It's just Dylan and I now, but I don't know, that dog, there's something magical about him, and he has taught me, Rascal taught me patience. Like, each dog brings their gift to you,
Yes.
which is amazing
Totally
to me.
believe
Like, I had a Newfoundland Chow mix who was just joy personified. Like, that was just what he was. He woke up every morning and he taught me how to play, because his little face, every morning I would wake up and he would plop his head right on the side of my bed and look me in the eye. And the second I would breathe differently, his tail would start thumping, and he would look at me like, oh my God, we woke up and we get to go play. Like, what can we do today, Mommy? And he was just delightful. And I raised him from a puppy with another dog. She was about a year older, and she was an Australian Shepherd Chow mix, and her name was Sadie. And she looked like a wolf. She was just beautiful. But that was, I thought, until Dylan, the most gentle dog I'd ever been around. She just was like Buddha. Like, she was my, here's how you be still. And Jake was like, here's how we play. And so they were, I had them for 16 years. Like, they went everywhere with me. I had 2 Volkswagen campers back to back, little Volkswagen Eurovans, and they went everywhere with me. And they were on all my casting jobs. Like, they learned, like, camera meant lay down under the tripod when I was auditioning people. And so they were my greeters out in the lobby for my actors, and they would walk them all in. Yeah. And so I would have like 2 or 3 or 4 dogs with me at my studio. I'm the only casting director I knew in Dallas that had their own studio. And it was strictly so I could have my dogs with me, because I wanted them to be at work with me if I was going to be working 12 to 16 hours a day, and they did such therapy work. They, kept people less afraid, and they could touch them and they could ground them, and everybody got more comfortable. And that's one thing about Dylan too, which is amazing. He's just a natural therapy dog. He always has been. He goes up, like both my parents have been in and out of physical therapy rehab over the years, because they're older and have some dementia and some different issues. And every time we go to a new rehab, we make sure that they go to one where dogs are allowed, because Dylan has to go, see them, and then he just pulls you to all the other rooms, and he will instinctively go to the person who is like the most broken down, like in a wheelchair, on oxygen, not even there. And he'll stick his head up under their hand, and like, you'll just slowly see their little hand just start to pet him. Just like you'll see a little bit of movement. And he just, like, this last time he did it, he leaned into the wheelchair and would not let me pull him away. He was like, nope, Mommy, I'm busy. I've got a sacred job and I'm doing it. And this person needs me. And that's just what he does. He just got that spirit. It's
It's so
such a gift.
amazing. And that's the thing. Dogs just they aren't phony, as I always say. And then they
Yeah.
know their gifts and they know why they're here on earth.
And it's never been lost on me too that dog is God backwards. Like that, I love to watch the play on words, and that's not even funny to me. It's perfect because what do they teach us? Like live in the moment, be love,
Right.
live. Find pure joy, be good to each other. If you're not good, you get a minute of time out. I mean, it's all this. It's they're just brilliant, and they make. I'm convinced that every dog I've ever had has made me a better person. I love my cats, but you're a better servant to a cat. But a dog will make you a better person for sure.
Yeah.
And I've always said I really want to be the person that Dylan thinks I am, because the way they look at you sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even know that I deserve that look of adoration. Like I'm going to try to rise up to that sweet look that you give me every day.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. These are just wonderful words that you're speaking, because you're speaking to my heart and everybody else that listens. We love dogs. We get this.
Yeah.
We get what you're saying. And oh my gosh. Yeah. You're speaking such truth. Oh my goodness. Or I don't know if there's any other dogs that you want to give examples of that have touched your heart and, your soul over the years.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah, there is one thing that I do want to educate people about a little bit that maybe is something they don't know, if that's okay. It's like a health thing that I didn't know about, and I lost a rescue dog because of it.
Oh yeah.
So I really I found this dog came up in my backyard because I must have had a stamp on my back, my back fence that says, hey, I'm open for business, come on in, because I would just walk and dogs would come home with me. They would just show up, or they'd be in my backyard. If there was a storm, suddenly, there's like 4 dogs from the neighborhood. Sometimes they'd have tags, sometimes they wouldn't. I'd end up that's how I got so many. I was like the Pied Piper for, wayward dogs. But this one dog showed up, and I thought it was a sick cat out in the backyard. And I looked, and I saw like this gold cat, but it stood up, and I realized it was the head of a giant Akita, this beautiful golden Akita.
Whoa.
But he was so emaciated that you could see like every rib, all his bones, like everything. And
wow.
I grabbed him, and immediately, I always take a dog that I find to the vet right away to see if they have a chip or a tag, and of course nothing. And he had heartworm so bad that they had to do the arsenic shot right into the heart. They were like, he may not make it, but so please give your doggies heartworm. That's so important, because it's just a cheap preventative, but boy, if you don't do it, it is a really scary thing to put them through. And then you have to keep them still for 100,000 years while it takes effect. But poor Gus, they had to give him the shot straight into his heart because it was so bad. And they're like, he may not make it, but he did, which was so cool. And he made it, and we fattened him up, and he was so happy, and everything was going great for like a year. We had the best time together. And then I didn't know about this. He was the first big dog I had, and this was the dog I had right before Rascal.
Okay.
And Gus, one day we went to the dog park, and he played and he ran and he had a great time, and we came home, and he drank a bunch of water, and he ate lunch, and then drank some more water, and then started acting weird. And I didn't know about this at the time, but there's this thing called bloat that dogs get if they're barrel chested, and they don't even have to be really big. I'm finding out now they can be 35 pounds and up. And this is what happened to Gus. He started breathing weird and acting strange and hunched over and throwing up just water, but none of his food. And so I took him to the vet, and the vet missed it. And so,
oh no.
Yeah. And so then later I had to take him to the emergency vet because I looked at him and he was literally expanding. And so I was like, okay, this is not right. And like I said earlier, I trust my intuition, that I rely on it heavily for, work and my life. And I was like, something is not right. So I took him to the vet, and the emergency vet, and it did not end well. But that's, not to bring everybody down, but I do want people to be aware of the fact that there's these little strips called Gas-X strips. There's simethicone strips. And if you keep those on hand, if you get a dog with bloat and you give them one of those strips, you put it in their mouth, it will actually take some of the gassy expansion down enough that it buys you some time to get them to the vet.
Good enough.
So, not to be Debbie Downer, but that is actually a pretty cool tool to have in your doggy rescue or handy kit, just to keep them healthy.
Oh, wonderful. So, thank you for this, like a PSA.
But the cool thing is about Gus is I believe that your pets, when they pass on, just like people are angels, I believe that your pets are angels too. And I mean, Gus knew that I needed something big to love. And I had like a big bed and a big bowl and big bags of food and big everything for him. And like a day and a half or 2 days after he died, I literally heard that little whisper again of, get online and just look. I bet there's somebody that needs you. And like the second dog I looked at, there was Rascal.
Oh my goodness.
He had that little Great Pyrenees face and the, half mask. He was comedy tragedy. And I was a theater person and,
oh my goodness.
and a casting director. And I'm like, okay. So I think Gus sent Rascal to me to teach me patience and, how to learn to, how to learn to just roll with the punches.
I'm sorry you lost him, but yeah, what a gift he gave you, that knowledge to share with other people too,
Absolutely.
So
yeah, absolutely.
hard.
And you lose them, life happens that way, but we had an amazing time together. And that's a tricky thing with rescue. You have to learn to, kind of let them flow through like anything else in life. You have them for sometimes a season and sometimes just for a reason, I guess.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing today. You're such a blessing, and your message, you have such a wonderful message and, experiences to share. So people definitely need to go listen to your podcast.
Thank you, sweetie. I appreciate you having me. It was really fun.
To be honest, rescue always sounded a little scary to me, but the more people I speak with, the more it seems possible. I hope you have a great day, and I hope you join me Wednesday